An estimated 15,000 children have died in Palestine since October 7th. Although these headlines are everywhere right now, the history of the indigenous struggle in Palestine has long been ignored, misportrayed, and smeared by European and Zionist complexes. This video will not explore every intricacy of British and Israeli occupation, rather compare settler colonialism in the United States and Zionist colonialism in Palestine. Let's start with a question. Did the U.S. actually intend to coexist with the indigenous people of America? Most people with common sense would say no, but for the sake of beating a dead horse, let's delve into a particularly egregious example of reneging on treaties committed by the government. From a report of a massacre, a proclamation sent out at the beginning of the summer of 1864 by the governor of the territory of Colorado, John Evans, had commanded all, quote, friendly Native Americans of the Cheyenne and Arapaho to go to Fort Lyon to receive supplies and to find safety. Unfortunately, this was in direct conflict with the standing order at all forts within the territory of Colorado that all members of the military should shoot and kill any Native American that approached a fort. A colonel was never given orders to leave Denver, and at around 6:30, the soldiers would open fire amongst the lodges of the innocent and unaware Arapaho and Cheyenne civilians. Over the course of 8 hours, the American troops killed around 230 people, composed mostly of women, children, and the elderly. During the afternoon and following day, the soldiers wandered over the field committing atrocities on the dead before departing the scene on December 1st. Why was this justified? Remember Manifest Destiny? According to the douchebag who coined the phrase, there is a long-standing American belief in the God-given mission of the United States to lead the world in the transition to democracy. He called this America's Manifest Destiny. This leads into the real reason why the two-state solution will not work: Zionism, racial capitalism, and colonialism. This pattern of broken promises, violent expansion, and reneging mirrors the story of Israeli and occupation of Palestinian territories nearly to a T. Let's fast forward to the aftermath of the 1967 Six-Day War, where Israel occupied the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. The UN Security Council adopted Resolution 242, developed, quote, with the United States. Caradon developed a resolution that lacked clear and binding mechanisms for implementation and whose wording was vague enough to ensure acceptance by the entire Council, which it did, passing unanimously on the 22nd of November 1967. Here's an example of that vague speech. Opponents argued that the actual English language words in the resolution call for an Israeli withdrawal from territories occupied in the war, as opposed to the territories occupied. Let's fast forward one more time, 1993. This is when the infamous Oslo Accord was signed. This was supposedly, though not explicitly, laying out the framework of a theoretical two-state solution. Shockingly, in the following years, Israeli settlements expanded throughout much of the West Bank, carving up Palestinian lands with new roads and jurisdictions maintained for Jewish settlers. Below ground, aquifers were also being diverted to the settlements, imposing chronic water shortages on Palestinians. The Oslo Accords gave us what New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman recently described as, quote, the shared fiction that Israel's occupation of the West Bank was only temporary. There are countless more examples of events just like this that mirror exactly what happened in colonial America, like the ironically named Road Trip for Peace developed by the US and UN, or the implementation of the Gaza blockade in 2007, which still remains today. With all that being said, let me ask the same question as I did in the beginning. Just let me change a couple of words. Does Netanyahu actually intend to coexist with the indigenous people of Palestine? As long as the ideologies that justified colonialism persist, true peace will remain elusive. The only path forward is acknowledging the injustice, embracing the call for land back, and giving power and agency back to those in Palestine.